Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here, how y'all doing? So I'm sure as you guys know, when it comes to Ninjago, there are a lot of seasons when it comes to the show. There are technically 15 seasons in the show. Yes, I count the island as season 14, that's what I'm going to be calling it. But at the same time though, you can technically increase that number to be more like 18 seasons actually, because that includes the pilot season, Day of the Departed, which yes is a Halloween special, but I mean, it still counts, and splitting apart the Fire and Ice chapter into their own separate seasons, splitting apart season 11 into 2 seasons then. And everyone obviously has their own personal opinions on each season of the show. So in today's video, I'm going to give you guys my personal ranking of all 18 seasons in the show. This is obviously just my own opinion, yours can be different, and that's totally fine. Feel free to leave your personal list down below, and let's get into this whole thing. Starting off at the bottom of the list in number 18, in my personal opinion, the worst season in the show has to go to Sons of Garmadon. For the short version of this whole thing, I just really don't like this season. And why? Well, again, here's the short version. In my opinion, the intro is bad, the set integration was done terribly, the ninja were noticeably weaker in the season for some reason, and I also didn't like how the ninja were handled during the season, because, like, Season 8 is a team season, but only half the team gets any sort of real focus, plus at the same time they do this weird character switch halfway through. In my opinion, overall, the episodes just weren't that good, with True Potential being the one and only exception as being, like, the only actually good episode from Season 8. And in my personal opinion, Season 8 introduced the worst cast of new characters, with Harumi easily being the worst character in the show, honestly. Like, there was a lot of stuff when it comes to Season 8 that I just really didn't like. This was the first ever season we got ever since the movie happened, and in my opinion, while stuff like the added-in darkness and maturity and the movie changes were actually done really well, there was just way too many bad things when it came to the season. But again, I mean, hey, that's just me, honestly. In the number 17 spot, we have Hands of Time. In my personal opinion, Hands of Time, it was originally my least favorite season for a while, but I did a little bit of thinking about the season, and then I realized that it's not as bad as I originally thought it was, but it's still a pretty bad season, honestly. Like, when it comes to this season, the villains, in my opinion, weren't that good, and I didn't like how the ninja were constantly splitting up throughout the season. It took me a while to notice, but I did finally see just the lower quality animation when it came to this season. And honestly, the thing that I dislike the most when it comes to this season is the fact that Season 7 was marketed as a Kai and Nia focus season, but Nia barely gets any focus when it comes to this season. Like, she only gets any sort of real focus during the season in, like, the last 2 episodes, and that's kind of it. Like, she has a couple moments here or there throughout the season, but again, it's really only the final 2 episodes, and that's it, basically. So, again, when it comes to Season 7, it just really isn't that great of a season, in my opinion. In the number 16 spot, we have Day of the Departed. In my opinion, Day of the Departed, it's not as bad as people tend to say it is, but at the same time, it really isn't that great of a season, or rather a special. Because you see, my main issue that I had with Day of the Departed is this. It's just repetitive, honestly. Like, it repeats the exact same stuff over and over again all throughout the special. It's basically just, bad guy shows up, they fight against the ninja wins. Basically repeat that all throughout the special. Like, Cole and Wu are the only ones who get any sort of real deviation when it comes to this whole thing going on. And that's basically it, honestly. And, like, I do like what they ended up doing with both their story. It's like Cole had the continuation and the conclusion of his ghost story, plus we got some more information relating to the character of Sensei Yang, so that was something pretty cool. And when it came to Wu, we actually had the continuation of Moro's redemption story, which started all the way back in Season 5, so again, that was something pretty cool. But again, those are the only 2 characters who got any sort of real story when it came to this, because again, for the rest of the ninja, they just feel like they're kind of there, really, and don't get all that much to do, actually. Heck, some of the ninja, they don't even say 100 words during Day of the Departed. Like, again, they don't really get that much of a chance to do anything, honestly. Again, I don't think it's as bad as people tend to say it, calling it, like, the worst season in the show, but at the same time, it really isn't that good of a season, honestly. Number 15, March of the Yoni. If I could describe Season 10 in one word, it would just be boring. That's honestly probably the best way I can put it when it comes to Season 10. It's just the most boring season in the show, in my opinion. Like, there's nothing all that unique or different done with this season, because everything that happens during the season, we've seen done before in another season. So again, there's nothing unique when it comes to this season. Like, there aren't any major new characters introduced, with the Omega being the one and only exception, and even then, he's basically a discount overlord, so that's something that wasn't done well. There's like nothing new introduced when it comes to this season. And like, it seems like the writer has prioritized fan service over literally everything else when it came to this season. Considering basically everything that happens when it comes to this season, either the problem or the solution to said problem is something that existed back in Ninjago. It was past, it's like relating to the show actually. And in my opinion, the fan service just was not done well at all. Mainly due to the fact that when it came to the fan service, it was basically just like, hey, look at this thing that exists in the show before. We're going to use it for one scene and it's never going to be brought up or referenced again. And that's basically the whole thing throughout the entirety of Season 10, with Destiny's Bounty being the one and only exception which actually gets some more screen time. But again, everything else, it just kind of shows up for a single scene and it's never used again. And like, especially when it comes to something like the Golden Weapons, 4 of the most powerful weapons in all of Ninjago. The ninja literally throw the golden weapons on the ground after the final battle happens. Like, just, what? Like, there were some things that I did like when it comes to this season. Mainly Garmadon's arc, which in my opinion was actually done really well with him starting to go down the path of becoming Sensei Garmadon again. That was something that I did like a lot. But again, for the season overall, it's just really, really boring, honestly. Although, honestly, I will take a boring season over a season that I don't really like all that much any day, honestly. So that's why this season is higher compared to the last few seasons. Number 14, The Fire Chapter. In my personal opinion, and when it comes to the Fire Chapter, with this being the starting point for the Wild Brain era of the show, the Fire Chapter really wasn't that great of a starting point, in my opinion. Like, it was decent, in my opinion, but just not really all that great, honestly. Like, there were definitely some things when it came to this season that I did like. For example, Last Sphere, in my opinion, was definitely a major step up compared to every Oni trilogy villain we got. And at the same time, I like the fact that she's a villain who knows Spinjitzu, who actively uses it against the ninja. That was something pretty cool. Well, plus also, in my opinion, the changes that the season made, mainly the swap to the 11-minute format and the change in the animation studio, in my opinion, only helped to improve the show and make it better. And just a couple other things, but there was a lot of stuff when it came to this season that I just really didn't like. Mainly the fact that there's not a lot of plot going on when it comes to the season. Like, things just kind of happen, basically, with, like, minimal plot here or there. And also, I didn't like how the lazy ninja storyline was executed. Because the idea is that the ninja have been lazy for 6 months ever since the end of Season 10. And the ninja are still lazy halfway through the season. Like, in my opinion, if they took more of a Season 1 route where the ninja were lazy for, say, a few weeks to 1 month at most, and they were only lazy for the first 2 or 3 episodes, in my opinion, that would have handled things a bit better, in my opinion. But at the same time, when it comes to the Fire Chapter, again, I think it's a decent season, but just not really all that great, honestly. Like, it's just fine, honestly. And this is honestly the one and only Wild Brain season that I have that is not in my personal top 10 favorite seasons. So, yeah, I guess a bit of foreshadowing or spoilers for the rest of this list then. Number 13, Legacy of the Green Ninja. In my personal opinion, when it comes to Season 2, it's not as good as people tend to say it is. And just here's why. For me personally, Season 2 suffers from the exact same problem that Season 11 does, only worse in my opinion. What I mean by that is this. In the case of both seasons, there's not a lot of plot going on in the first half of the season with things just sort of happening basically. But in the second half of the season, things get really good and things are just absolutely incredible. Except the reason why I'd say Season 2 is worse is because when it comes to Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu, Season 11, you can split apart the Fire and Ice chapter into their own separate seasons. Heck, I've done that for this very video. But when it comes to Season 2, you can't do that. Like, it's stuck as one season. You can't split it up. So, again, I just didn't really like that when it came to Season 2. Again, there's not a lot of plot happening, but then when it comes to the Dark Island trilogy, stuff gets really good with there actually being plot stuff going on. Like, the second half of Season 2, in my opinion, was a major improvement compared to what we were getting in the first half of the season. It was absolutely incredible, in my opinion. And that's not to say that the first half of Season 2 didn't have some good stuff, like Dareth is a really funny character. Plus, the whole concept of the Mega Weapon is a really, really cool idea. Like, a weapon that's a combination of the 4 golden weapons of Spinjitzu that gives the user 1 wish per day. Just, that's something really neat, in my opinion. But again, like, halfway through the season, it just sort of poofs out of existence thanks to time travel shenanigans. So, I mean, there's that. So, again, when it comes to Season 2, I don't think it's as good as people tend to say it is, but it isn't that bad of a season. Number 12, The pilot season. The pilot season was basically the starting point for the show, since this was ever the first season in the show. And in my personal opinion, the pilot season was honestly pretty good, actually. There was a lot of really great stuff when it came to this season. It gave us a pretty good understanding of the world that we were experiencing, who the characters were, what they were fighting for, or a decent backstory for what we needed to know at the time. And again, when it comes to the pilot season, it was just something pretty neat to see. But at the same time, when it comes to the pilot season, I like the fact that each of the battles during the season play some sort of significant role in the overall season. With stuff like the first battle in the show with Kai and Ni, and eventually Sensei Wu versus the Skullkin, since that's the starting off point for the whole show. You have the ninja with their first major fight against the Skullkin. That's the first time they ever have a major fight against the Skullkin army, and it's the first time they ever use Spinjitzu. That's something pretty cool. Well, the final battle taking place between Wu and Samukai, that was something pretty neat to see, actually. Especially considering how it just directly relates into Garmadon and getting out of the underworld. Just, again, a whole bunch of really great and important battles. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say, honestly. There isn't that much to say about the pilot season, considering how short it was, but hey, it was pretty good for what we got. Number 11, Rise of the Serpentine. This was the first ever, full-length season of the show, and in my opinion, it was honestly a really great season for what we had. You had each of the ninja getting, their own moment in the spotlight, which was pretty great. We got some more expansion on the world, with us being introduced to more characters and more history, and plus more locations. That was pretty great. The introduction of some new storylines that was happening, the whole mystery of who Samurai X and the Green Ninja were, that was something pretty great. And plus, I also like that when it came to season 1, it was able to expand on Garmadon's character more. Because he was pretty one note in the pilot season, but season 1 definitely expands a lot on his character, and in my opinion, that was something really great to see, actually. And again, when it comes to season 1, in my opinion, it was just something pretty neat, honestly. Even though, come on guys, let's face it, season 1 was pretty campy and corny, we gotta admit that. But hey, that's just when Ninjago was first starting out. Back when it was made more, for kids. Come on, again, the show was pretty campy. We all gotta admit that. Number 10, Prime Empire. I personally really like season 12 a lot. For starters, I just love the whole video game concept. I myself am a big gamer, so I really like and just all the little Easter eggs and references that they threw in when it came to this season. That was something pretty great to see. Plus, I also like the fact that this was a J-focused season. We kind of got one of those in years, so it was something pretty neat to see. And plus, I just really, really like the characters of Okino and Unagami. Two really great characters, in my opinion. When it comes to Okino, you have his whole story of him finding out that he's a character in a video game and him coming to terms with that. That was something pretty neat to see. And Unagami, in my opinion, is a really great villain, considering he's not after power or revenge or wants to take over Ninjago. He just wants answers as to why Milton Dyer, his creator / father, just abandoned him, considering just everything that happened. And since, Unagami, he is a computer program, and Milton Dyer, again, his creator, he just didn't really care for him all that much. Just considering he thought that Unagami was just a computer program with no feelings. And I think that's pretty neat, considering when it comes to season 12, they asked two big questions. Dan Unagami and his creator Milton Dyer play a large role when it comes to both those questions, with those being, 1, is a creator responsible for his creation's actions, and 2, is artificial life actual life? That's something pretty neat to see. Although when it comes to some of the negatives when it comes to this season, I think for a majority of the characters, they really weren't that great, mainly Milton Dyer. He was alright, but he was basically just a discount Cyrus Borg, so I didn't like that. Ratio 7, in my opinion, could have been replaced by just any other named character in the show, and we would have gotten the exact same results, and she's basically just a discount Okino who was introduced in this season, and Scott is just one of the worst ninja allies in the show, considering he does basically nothing during season 12. I also didn't like how Zane was handled during the season, considering he doesn't get to go into Prime Empire. Instead, he's just searching for Milton Dyer, and we don't really get a chance to see all that much of that storyline. And Ninjago Confidential, in my opinion, just was not great at all, considering how Zane was portrayed during that episode as basically the exact opposite of how Zane would ever actually act. Just, again, I didn't really like any of that stuff. But season 12 overall, in my opinion, again, it was pretty good, honestly. Number 9. The Island. In my personal opinion, The Island, despite being a pretty simple story with just the ninja traveling to an island and trying to rescue Wu, Misako, and Clutch Power, is, in my opinion, was actually something pretty enjoyable. Again, it was something pretty short, but the writers knew what they were working with, and things were handled pretty good. It mainly was stuff like the whole location of the island is a pretty neat location. It was pretty neat that we got a chance to return to a jungle area. We haven't gotten that at all since season 4, so that was something pretty cool. Well, plus I also really like the Keepers, in my opinion. Chief Mamatus, their leader, and just the Keepers in general are really underrated characters. And I like the idea that they've been tasked with guarding the Storm Amulet from the ancient sea serpent Wajira, and they gotten this request from the first Ninjutsu Master himself, so that's something pretty big. And although in my opinion it wasn't really handled that well, I did honestly really like the whole neat twist that they had going on. And where it turns out the Keepers were the actual antagonists of the season, rather instead it was a bunch of criminals led by Ronin. And yeah, season 14, in my opinion, definitely did not do Ronin justice, because in my opinion, Ronin, for just how he was portrayed during this episode, wasn't great. He was a straight-up villain during season 14, even though he's an anti-hero, so that just felt kind of weird. And still, in my opinion, it was something pretty interesting. Also, in my opinion, Zippy is the best dragon in the show. He is just so funny, in my opinion. He instantly won me over in his first episode. Seriously, again, after one episode, Zippy was instantly my favorite dragon in the show. He was absolutely amazing. Although, if I do have to give this season any negative, that easily goes to Twitchy Tim, who in my opinion is one of the worst characters in the show. He's basically Scott, except way worse considering. And Twitchy Tim does so little during season 14. You can cut him from season 14 entirely and nothing changes at all. Practically everything goes the exact same way that it does. And then again, I just really don't like that, honestly. Plus, not to mention when it comes to Twitchy Tim, he's just annoying at times. And I really didn't like how he was the one who stopped Ronin during the final episode. But again, for the island overall, in my opinion, it was mainly meant to be a prologue to season 15, just setting up all that stuff. But at the same time, in my opinion, again, it was just pretty good. Speaking of season 15, actually. Number 8, Seabound. I know I'm going to get a whole bunch of angry comments and wondering why I have season 8 is not in the top 5 or top 3 seasons, and just let me explain. For me personally, I do really like season 15. I think Seabound is a really good season. I just personally don't consider this season to be top 3 or even top 5 material, honestly, and just here's why. For starters, when it comes to the good stuff when it comes to the season, I like the fact that this is a purely Nia-focused season. That was something pretty cool. Plus, the whole underwater concept is really great, and I really like how towards the end of the season, they had just a bunch of really well done and Easter eggs and references to stuff from previously that happened in the show. This is fan service done well. Plus, also, Calamar and Benthamar, in my opinion, are 2 really great villains. But at the same time, in my opinion, like I said, season 15, in my opinion, it's not that great. For starters, I didn't really like Maya all that much. And I didn't like how they took Maya, who was a pretty serious character in season 7, and turned her into a stereotypical cartoon mom. I get it, she is a mom, she's Nia's mom. But again, to turn her into just again, the stereotypical cartoon mom, that just didn't make any sense in my opinion. Plus, at the same time, this season is basically just season 13, but underwater. These 2 seasons are actually really similar to each other. And finally, I just honestly wasn't the biggest fan of Nia when it came to season 15, because for the first half of the season, in my opinion, she was really unlikable, and in the second half of the season, Nia was just way too overpowered during the season. And so, again, I like season 15, and I do definitely think it is a great season with a lot of really well done moments. But at the same time, I wouldn't really call this season, again, top 5 material for me personally. Number 7, Possession. This is another really great season in my opinion. Just a lot of really great moments and just things about the season. For starters, Moro is my favorite villain in the show. He is just an absolutely incredibly written character and villain, and just has a whole bunch of really great moments all throughout the season, with him being just a smart villain and having just, again, a bunch of great moments. And his redemption story that happens at the end of the season is just absolutely incredible. I also really like that when it came to this season, and it was able to just give some more spotlight to Cole and Nia, 2 characters who didn't really have all that much spotlight prior to this, so that was something pretty cool. Plus, also, I really like that when it came to this season, it set up Yang during the season, who eventually became a major antagonist during Day of the Departed in a couple seasons later, so that was something pretty cool. And I like the fact that this is currently the one and only season in the show that actually has a 2-part season finale. That is something really great in my opinion, and I hope we end up getting it again at some point. And again, there's just a lot of really great stuff when it comes to this season. I just didn't like how there was just a whole bunch of location jumping, if that's the right word for it. Basically, what I mean by that is just basically every single episode, the ninja were in a brand new location, and I just didn't really like that all too much. Because again, they were just like here in one episode, here in another episode, here in another episode. Things just became kind of disorienting, basically. And if you ended up like missing one episode, you could be very, very lost to what's going on. But again, when it comes to Possession, in my opinion, is just honestly a really, really great season. Number 6, Master of the Mountain. Season 13, in my opinion, just once again is a really, really great season, honestly. For starters, I like the fact that this is a Cole-focused season. We had never gotten one of those inspired to the show. Well, I mean, like, yeah, there was Day of the Departed, but that doesn't really count since, again, that was a special, not a season. So again, our first ever fully Cole-focused season, that was awesome. Plus, I also like just a whole bunch of the episodes throughout the season. They were all really great. And I also really like the Skull Sorcerer. He is just a really great villain, and in my personal opinion, and just the twist related to him is pretty cool. And also, he has the best design of any villain in the show. He just looks absolutely incredible. Well, plus, also, when it comes to this season, in my opinion, this season is just funny. In my personal opinion, season 13 is the funniest season in the show. It was able to get a laugh out of me every single episode, even episodes that were either more serious or episodes that, in my opinion, weren't that good. Like, again, this season is just the absolute funniest season in the show. I was laughing every single episode. It was amazing, honestly. And so, yeah, again, season 13, in my opinion, a really, really great season. Now on to the top 5 seasons. Number 5, Tournament of Elements. Season 4, in my opinion, is just an absolutely incredible season for just everything it did. For one, the whole idea of just an elemental fighting tournament is a really, really great idea. And plus, just the battles throughout this season were absolutely incredible for what we got to see. There were just a whole bunch of really great characters that we got introduced to, just a whole bunch of great moments. But honestly, I'd have to say the biggest reason why I really like this season is because of the world building that it does. We get introduced to more characters, locations, we get to learn about more history when it comes to the show with the first Serpentine War, just again. And this season was able to just expand a whole bunch on what we already knew when it comes to the show. When just, again, telling us more about this world that we've been experiencing for a few years at this point. So it was honestly just something really amazing to see, honestly. Just the expansion and what we got to see. Plus also, I like the fact that when it comes to this season, it took place in some place other than Ninjago City, considering that's where the show had been for just a while at this point. So again, this was something pretty neat to see, actually. And again, in season 4, in my opinion, is just amazing. Number 4, Hunted. In my personal opinion, Hunted is easily the best season from the Yoni trilogy, just without question. Hunted, in my opinion, took all the good things from season 8 and just did it better, in my opinion. Stuff like more added in darkness and maturity, a more ambitious storyline, and a more creative storyline. And with the whole Two Realms thing that was going on. And plus the continuation of Lloyd's sword, giving more worlds and just stuff for the ninjas to do, and going with more stuff related to Lloyd and Garmadon's relationship as father and son. And that's something pretty neat to see, actually. And just like, again, there was a lot of really great stuff when it comes to this season. And mainly just, again, the Two Realms storyline. That, in my opinion, is the most ambitious the show has ever got. And considering, again, you have 2 storylines going at once. That's something pretty neat, in my opinion. And plus, again, this season is just way more dark and mature than what we had ever gotten into that point. Like, yeah, season 8 was pretty dark, but in my opinion, season 9 just kicked things up another notch, considering how many major characters died during this season. Some of them even on screen. Just, again, that's a pretty big deal. Well, plus also, in my opinion, in season 9 gave us, in my opinion, the best Ninjago character in a while, with that being Faith. In my opinion, Faith is easily the best new character introduced during the Yoni trilogy. I mean, just the best Ninjago character we had gotten in a while. Because, just again, she was a really great character, honestly. Although, if I do have to give season 9 any negatives, for starters, I really didn't like Kid and Teen Wu that much. Like, in my opinion, season 9 is where Sensei Wu was at his absolute worst, honestly. And in my opinion, season 9 easily has the worst moment in the show, with that being Harumi's death. Just, this scene was bad, guys. For starters, I mean, the scene itself made absolutely no sense and went against literally everything we knew about Harumi. I mean, like, seriously, Season 8 and 9 presented Harumi as an evil, sadistic killer who only cared about herself. Yet for some reason during Season 9, she decides to save 3 people before she died, which didn't make any sense. In my opinion, fan reaction to this scene made absolutely no sense. Like, I don't get why people are saying that this moment redeemed Harumi. Like, I mean, seriously, again, Harumi killed a whole bunch of innocent people during Season 8, so I don't get why people are saying this moment redeemed her, and just, again, I just don't like this moment at all. But again, when it comes to Season 9 overall, in my opinion, it is just an absolutely incredible season, honestly. Number 3, rebooted. In my opinion, Season 3 is just an honestly absolutely incredible season. Just a whole bunch of really great stuff when it comes to this season. For starters, this is a Zane-focused season. Zane is my personal favorite ninja and character in the show, so that's something that I really like. Plus, also, I just really like the whole futuristic and technological sci-fi thing that they were going with. Like, they took the word rebooted literally when it came to this whole thing and just made Season 3 all about tech, and I really like that. Plus, I also like the fact that even though the season was pretty short, only having 8 episodes, it was still able to tell a pretty great story, honestly. Plus, the season just has a whole bunch of really, really great moments and reveals, mainly with stuff like the reveal that the Overlord is back, Pythor is still alive, and the ninja getting their powers back. And of course, Zane's sacrifice, which in my opinion is still easily the best moment in the show, honestly. And it's just my personal favorite moment in the entirety of the show because it just shows how much of a hero Zane really is. That was absolutely incredible. Well, although, once again, if I do have to give this season any negatives, it's, well, I mean, come on, we all know what it is when it comes to Season 3. It's the love triangle. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Season 3 introduced a love triangle between the characters Jay, Cole, and Nia, with Jay and Cole just fighting over Nia. And this was honestly just really forced and just felt like it came out of nowhere. And again, just all 3 characters felt really forced into this, especially Cole. Just, again, this was really bad. And, like, the only good thing to come from this love triangle was Jay and Cole's battle against each other during the Tournament of Elements, and that was literally it. But yeah, again, this is, like, the one negative that I can give, and otherwise just, again, absolutely amazing season. Number 2, Skybound. I don't know what it is about Skybound that makes me love this season so much. I just do, honestly. For starters, I really like that this is a Jay-focused season. We had never gotten something like that before, and it honestly seemed a bit unlikely that Jay would be the focus of a season, considering he's the comic relief character. Yet despite that, this season was able to show that Jay's more than just the comic relief character, and he can actually do a lot of really great stuff. That was pretty cool. Plus, Nanakon is just a really, really great villain, and I just like him a lot. Like, again, he's a really well-written villain, and I just really like how many risks this season took. Not only when it comes to doing stuff like killing off Nia and Pixel, turning Lloyd into an old man, and putting the ninja into a lose-lose situation, all of which was undone by the time travel ending, which I do actually really like, honestly. But also risks in, like, what was actually in the show itself. Stuff like heavier romance, some more brutal violence, even implied alcoholism a few times. Like, Season 5, in my opinion, was like the season that started to show that Ninjago is much more than just a kid show with it going down on a darker path. But Season 6, in my opinion, is the season that showed that Ninjago, it's not just for kids, but it can be more for, like, teens and adults, with including more adult-related stuff in here. Just, that's something pretty interesting, in my opinion. And something you just don't really expect when it comes to a kid's show, and I just like that a lot. And again, like I said, the time travel ending when it comes to Season 6, in my opinion, was actually really great because it allowed for a whole bunch of these risks to happen. That was something pretty cool to see. And again, just the whole idea of this being a J-focused season, in my opinion, is pretty great. And to be honest with you guys, for a long, and I mean a long time, like 5 years basically, yeah, Skybound was my absolute favorite season in the show. That wasn't until I did some thinking, and I realized that there was in fact one season in the show that was just absolutely incredible, and was easily my favorite season. What is that season? Well, that honor has to go to number 1, The Ice Chapter. Easily the most underrated season in the show, and deserves way more respect and attention than what it actually gets. The Ice Chapter is absolutely incredible in my opinion. And for stars, this season had just absolutely amazing episodes and music all throughout the season. That was amazing. The Never Realm, in my opinion, is a really great concept for both a realm and a location, with the whole idea that there's like multiple sides to this realm and we haven't seen all of it. So that means that this realm has way more potential than any other realm, in my opinion. And I really like how each of the ninja, with the exception of Jay, unfortunately, got their own storyline, which in some way contributed to the overall plot of the season. That's something pretty cool. Plus, I also like the continuation and the completion of Lloyd's story arc, which started all the way back in season 8. That was pretty cool. And the start of a brand new character arc for him. That was really cool. Well, Vex, in my opinion, is a really great and well-written villain. And Anna, in my opinion, is just easily one of the absolute best characters the show has ever given us, without question. And in my opinion, she is easily the best ninja ally and female character in the show, just by a mile, honestly. It's not even close when it comes to her. And so, yeah, when it comes to the Ice chapter, this season is just absolutely phenomenal, in my opinion. And again, in my opinion, this is easily the most underrated season in the show. Just, I love it so much. And so, yeah, that's basically all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? And what are your guys' personal lists when it comes to Ninjago seasons? Again, tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoyed. There, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing